All right, I'm going to take the mic off because I tend to wander, and so otherwise it's going to be going like this if I walk fast. So we're gonna take the mic with me.
Try not to go in front of that speaker too much because it's singing.
I'm going to walk this way. So my name is Kimmi Sparkman, and I was talking this morning about how God places desires on our heart. I was talking with a friend, and sometimes the way that we see those desires manifest, the way that we see God bringing out those desires is different than what we originally imagined it to look like. When I was about 10 years old, I remember being at a missions conference in my home church in Grand Rapids. If you haven't noticed, there's a few of us from Grand Rapids, Michigan here. We like the mountains, we do. But I felt that God was calling me into ministry, into missions. At that time, I thought it would be overseas somewhere. And I went to Bible college in Grand Rapids as well, Cornerstone University, and felt God calling me into full-time camp ministry. I had been working a few summers here. All told, it ended up being 7 summers, and then I joined the ministry full-time for 5 years. And it was wonderful. And I love being here and coming down that hill and over this bridge is coming home every time I come. But God's plans are not our plans, and so sometimes He leads us in a different direction. For me, that direction was Somerset, Kentucky, because that's where my fiance moved. When a lot of the coal jobs closed down, my husband's an optometrist, and he was, in 2011, I moved here full-time. He moved back home after graduate school and began practicing. But when a lot of the coal mines shut down, they lost a lot of their patients. And so, not patients as in like, I don't have any more patients, but the people left. The people were no longer coming in, and so they had to let the newest person go, and that was him. But I can see even then how God was directing our steps and preparing us for something more, something just as wonderful as Camp Nathaniel. And that was hard for me, to be able to live with hands wide open and give it all to God and say, you know, this was my heart for so many years, but I know you're calling me to follow my husband wherever he goes. And so that brought us to Somerset, and his job, associates in eye care. If you need somebody and you want to go to the lake, we'll take care of you. But they partnered with a group called His Servants Ministries. And so while we were still engaged, my husband went on a trip to Thailand. And then after we got married, they said, well, we would love you to come along too, Kimmi. And they knew that I had had some biblical training, some background in ministry. And little known to me was that, the same guy who started His Servants Ministry started our company, Associates in Eye Care. And he's getting older. And so he was looking to slowly back out of his trips. And little known to me, he was preparing me to step into that role. So he was watching, and he said, I can't do all of this stuff anymore. If you can handle this part of logistics, and if you can make sure that everyone gets through the airport and gets to where we're going, he was making sure I was ready. So a little bit of background to bring us to His Servants Ministries. His Servants Ministries, our goal is proclaiming God's love to the world. We are a unique ministry in that all of our members are volunteers. We have day jobs. We're bankers, optometrists, dentists, surgeons, but also lay people, workers, construction workers, housewives. We have the gamut within our organization, in our group. But before I get into more of who we are, I want to tell you a little story. In 1792, a man by the name of William Carey challenged his church in England to obey the responsibility to take the gospel to the ends of the earth, to the unreached lands. A year later, he and one other man were appointed to go to India as missionaries. So he challenged these people, and they said, okay, let's make a committee, let's get together and let's start planning where are these unreached lands that we need to go. We need to go to India. Well, William, since you brought it up, we're going to send you. And at their farewell service, the leaders of this missionary movement promised Carey that as long as he went forth in the society's name and their masters, so that if you go forward in the name of God, they should never cease until death to stand by him. So the mission in India was daunting. It was as if these two men were going to go down into a deep, unexplored mine. And here in Eastern Kentucky, we know a lot about that. We know about going deep into the mines and the effect that it can have on people. But this was during a time when you would lower somebody by rope down into the mine, and they would explore with that rope around them. So if something happened, you could pull them back out. And so Carey said, I will go down into the pit. I will go down if you will hold the rope. He's saying, I can do this. I can go to the ends of the earth. But I'm not going to be as effective. I'm not going to be as long-lasting unless there's people here at home sending me. If there's people here at home supporting me. If there's people here at home that I know will not forget me. I will go if you will hold the rope. So His Servants Ministries, I'm going to trip myself. His Servants Ministries is a group of volunteers holding the rope for those who go down into the pit. We partner the medical and financial resources and skills of teams from the United States with missionary national ministry leaders around the world to help meet the physical and spiritual needs of the people right where they are. So we're a 501c3, a nonprofit organization, and we understand we are not the end-all be-all answer to this world. We need to partner with others so that this gap is filled by us, but this gap is filled by you. And this gap is filled by somebody else. And we're all working together as the greater body of God, as the greater capital C church, uniting and pointing others towards God. So what drives His Servants Ministries? Mark 16:15 says, and He said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. His Servants Ministries has been established to proclaim God's love to the world. Matthew 25:35 through 40. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. So we will demonstrate our mission by meeting the physical needs of people wherever possible. His Servants Ministries is very unique in that each of the locations that we go to does not have the same tools, does not have the same resources being utilized because they're not needed in all places. I mentioned that we have a lot of medical personnel on our team, and that's because we work in developing nations where medical skills, medical gifts might be available in the big cities, but not out in the towns and the villages and even in the jungle. So we're going to places where it's needed. And then John 8:31 says, Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed in him, If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. As these needs are met, we will share the gospel of Jesus Christ to all who have not heard and work to disciple those who believe and will continue in his word. So our goal is to partner with national ministry partners. Just like here in Kentucky, we do have a lot of people from Michigan, but did it take a while for the people here to warm up to you? Yes, it did. People are very kind, very friendly. But there's a cultural wall sometimes, and you need to build up a relationship to be able to come over that wall. For His Servants Ministries, we partner with national people, which means that these are leaders who grew up in this country, who speak their language, who know their culture. So when we go and we partner with them, the guy who trained me likes to say that we're the dancing bear. Come look over here, come look over here, there's something over here. So we draw people in, but it's our ministry partners who are going to do the discipleship. And that's very important to us. We don't want to be a ministry that comes in, does something, saves all these people, and then leaves. And there's no follow-up, and there's no depth, and the crops wither because the sun beats down and there's no roots. We want to be a ministry that says, come over here, look and see. But then we can hand it off to our ministry partners and say, all right, we brought him in, you take him home. And I'll explain in a little bit some of our ministry locations. You're able to do that a little more and a little bit less in how prevalent you are in your evangelism. So, where does His Servants Ministries go? We go, and I'm a little bit OCD, so it's alphabetical order. We go to El Salvador, Guatemala, Kenya, Southeast Asia, and Thailand. These are places, we've gone to Belize in the past, we've gone to China in the past, but these are our current locations where we feel God calling us to go. Each one of these locations, teams go with a member of our mission board. There's several of us who gather together quarterly, and like I said, we're all volunteer based, and so we meet quarterly and we plan our trips. All of the board members are not necessarily going on a trip, but all of the trips are led by board members. So we each kind of take an area of expertise, but none of us go any place without feeling called there first. We pray about it, and so we've closed the door to some of our ministry locations because they're ready. They don't need us anymore. We don't want to keep using resources in a place that is established and ready to stand on their own 2 feet. So we move. And if you can add this to your prayers, we've been asked to consider Cambodia as one of our ministry areas. And so as we continue to live out our legacy in this ministry, it's going to look different at different times because that's what's needed. We don't want to be stagnant. We don't want to be stationary. We want to be moving where God is leading. So now the fun part. I did wear some, I loved when I was younger and missionary conference week, and they would come and they would wear the clothing from their location. Shoes, yes, sometimes they wear tennis shoes with their skirts. That does happen, but I forgot my other shoes. Side note, I also forgot my deodorant. So, if you're somebody who I've known from the past and want a hug, I would recommend doing it sooner rather than later throughout the day. Okay. Let me quick get in my notes. Okay. So El Salvador, what do we do there? So a little bit of our ministry breakdown. In El Salvador, one of the main things that we do is eye care. We have a gentleman by the name of Dr. Rooney who leads the teams to El Salvador. And actually, his wife is from El Salvador. He met her, she was an airline flight attendant. And so they met and she said, hey, we have a big need back home. And so that's kind of how we got started in El Salvador. We do partner with several different ministry partners in this country, and we rotate because there are resources in the main capital. Sometimes we'll start there to pick up our medicines, pick up some of the materials, and then go to other locations. But one of the goals in El Salvador is to also, we have people waiting in line for our ministry, for our clinics, is to evangelize, to use that moment to you've got a captive audience. If they want the free stuff, they got to sit and stay. So we get a chance to be able to speak what is the gospel and share that with them. And then we have individuals during the eye care who will ask people if they have something you would like us to pray for you for. Would you like to know more about this Jesus we're talking about? And we hook them up with with those ministry partners in local churches to follow up after we go. In Guatemala, sorry, my husband teases me, I do know Spanish, and so he'll say, it's Guatemala. He's from Eastern Kentucky. So if I say things a little bit funny, I apologize. But in Guatemala, we do cataract surgeries. And so Dr. Mark Henry has been going for quite a while. He's built up a partnership with some of the locals there. They provide cataract surgery, but also when we leave, Jorge, one of our ministry partners, has a feeding program. He has a school where students can come and be a part of the process. They get fed while they're in school. They take maybe those big bags of rice, some oil to cook in, maybe some beans, some staple items, and can take that home to their families on the weekends. Especially at Christmas time, that's a big ministry that they have. So, because of the nature of what we do, COVID changed a lot of what it looked like for the past few years. We weren't able to go on flights. People weren't able to leave the country. People weren't able to go into some of these countries. But our ministry partners were still on the ground. They were still serving their people. And that's where this partnership is so great. When we're gone, we can still send financial support to help them continue in their ministry so that these people are not forgotten just because of our inability to be there. The ministry partners are already there. That's been wonderful. In Kenya, trying to watch time. In Kenya, Dr. Harold Maynard is a dentist, and he partners with Bishop Stephen Chagi. And Bishop Chagi has several churches that he's responsible for, that he's over in different villages around Kenya. And so what they do is they have an evangelism day where they'll do a service and have worship, and then they'll do the dentistry. So we're partnering our physical needs, meeting physical needs with spiritual needs. And so Bishop Chagi has come to the U.S. a couple times to speak, and he speaks the King's English, which is different than the English you and I speak. So sometimes listening to Bishop Chagi, you got to ask him to repeat a few things. But for his own people, they understand him better than they understand us. So that's why he's there. Okay, I am going out of alphabetical order with Thailand, but there is a reason for this. In Thailand, we have had Christian music concerts. We do eye care there as well. Dr. Rooney, who goes to El Salvador, also goes to Thailand. Thailand is right now it's a very free and open country. It's very tourist driven. And so they were one of the first ones to open up after COVID restrictions because that was their livelihood. So in Thailand, we do have a couple different places. One of the places that my husband went on his first trip was a leper colony. They do have a leper colony still there, and it does provide some challenges. Our glasses are made to sit on the bridge of our nose, and if you no longer have a nose, we've had to use strapped and other out-of-the-box thinking to help provide that physical need while we're there. So, like I said, not all ministries are the perfect fit for all locations. So we found what works for this location. In the cities, eye care is great. In the villages, you might change several people's lives. And we noticed this in my, and I'll talk about my place in just a second, but if you have somebody who has cataracts and their cataracts are so bad they can no longer do anything, their ability to contribute to their family, their income that they bring to the family is gone. But not only that, you take away somebody else's income because somebody has to stay and help them because they weren't born blind. They weren't blind since they were young. This is a new thing, so they have to be there to help support and teach them and help figure out new ways around the house and how to eat and gather their food. So when we do cataract surgery, we only do one eye because that means if there's complications, because it is a developing country and their ability to get medical care if an infection arises is a lot lower than here. And so we do one eye because then if something happens, we still have the other eye to work with. But also, one eye is enough. If you go from blind to being able to see out of one eye, that's huge. And so you've added 2 incomes back into a family, and you've drastically changed that family's life. So being able to do these eye care and surgeries changes the outlook for these families. In Thailand, we partner with First Light International, Zara Ministries, and then this girl, right here. This is Jenny Swarakai. And Jenny had been doing this ministry for a while, and her family, her parents, really wanted her to stop being in the ministry and marry, because that would provide income for their family. But because she's a believer, Jenny has trusted in the Lord and said, nope, that's not what God has for me. She's been able to witness to her family, and her parents are now Christians. But that cultural pressure is still there. So Jenny has gone out on her own, and she has started a cafe where other missions interns or students can come and have a paying job and use that location as a place for Bible studies, a place to evangelize, and to work out of in the surrounding villages. So it's really neat to see how she is trusting God, and it's brought her to bigger and better opportunities than if she had stuck with what culture said, even though there's a hard juxtaposition there. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Southeast Asia because that's my place. We do call it Southeast Asia. If you would like to know the name of the country I go to, I'd love to tell you more about it back there. But because this is being recorded and the place that I go is a communist country, we protect the staff members by not posting anything that might give away their identities online or on recorded items. So I will keep referring to my place as Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, I was very excited to be able to work with my husband. One of the things that we do, because it is a communist country, we serve the government first, and then we serve the monks, because it's a very high area of Buddhism, and the monks give up so much, so part of the culture is there first. They've given a life of sacrifice, so let's give them first goods. We also do cataract surgeries, and we've been able to help with discipleship. A couple years ago, before COVID, I was able to go and lead their discipleship training for their staff. The group that I work with is made up of Campus Crusade for Christ students. So if you didn't know, Cru does exist in other countries. And so I partner with Campus Crusade for Christ kids, as well as a team from Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA. So something that I didn't realize until I started working with them is that these organizations that are very prevalent in our schools and our colleges here are also being utilized in schools and colleges across the world. But just to give you an example of how cultural differences might make things difficult, we have Tommy and Tim, who were on my team. So Tommy, Tim, Tip, Ting, Tui. So you got to be careful with these names. Some of them sound very close, but I've been able to build quite a relationship with them and to be able to share life together. My last 2 trips were alone. One of them was kind of our discipleship, but also fact-finding trip, because COVID totally shut down the borders. We had not been there in 2020. We had a big trip planned and had to cancel it. In 2021, I did go back and was able to just see them shortly for the discipleship training. And then this past year, in January of 2023, we were finally able to come in and do eye care again. But it was so good to see my friends. It's so good to see my family. We had a team from America come and bring eyewear, and then we partner with the Loud team, with the Campus Crusade for Christ team, and they don't have the financial resources to be able to pay their way. So when I raise money, when I raise support for my trips, it might seem like a lot. $6,500 was what I had to raise for the last trip, not including my ticket. Tickets can be up to $2,000. But that covered myself, 2 Lao American people, and then the whole Campus Crusade for Christ team, that was maybe 20 students. It covered our food for the week, it covered our room and board, it covered our travel expenses. So when you look at it comparatively, that amount goes a lot further in Asia than it does here. But that brings some of the challenges of our ministry and what it requires, and the help that we need. So Jeff said it earlier, but when I was a summer staff worker and had turned in my application and was joining in full-time ministry, when I was raising support, I had a friend say, soon your heart and your body will be in the same place. Soon, my heart was at Camp Nathaniel, and I had to raise support, and I had to finish college, and I had to do all these things before, but my heart and my body were in the same place here. That's how I feel now about my area of ministry. In Southeast Asia, these people have become my family. We had an American team and the Lao team, and the leadership said, now they're going to go and do, they've got some plans for the evening to do just debriefing and ministry together, but we counted you in with our team. Since you don't know them, we're claiming you because you're not American, you're Lao. You're one of us. And that was, yes, that's how I felt too. It was, these are my people. This is my family. So honored and excited to be a part of it. So, one of the things that I was asked to do is to share how you can be involved in this ministry. I've talked about countries around the world, and I have a map, and I've got pictures in the back. I've got the nice ceremonial outfits. If I'm going to a wedding, if I'm going to a really nice concert, I would wear this. And it's just beautiful silk and cultural appropriate clothes. But there's a lot of places where you can fit in. Number one, you can pray. You can pray for our mission board. Like I said, we don't go anywhere unless we feel God calling us there. So that means that we need your help to know that we are being discerning, that we're not just going places because we want to, but because we know there's a need, and that's where God is calling us. So pray for discernment. Pray for our teens. In January of this year, I would like to go back. We're trying to plan a cataract surgery team. So we'll provide eye care and cataract surgeries, but I'm looking for a cataract surgeon. I've got a few doctors, a few optometrists, but I need a surgeon. And you don't have to be medically trained to go on these trips. We have plenty of things for people to do, and we'll get to that in just a second. But we do need that cataract surgeon. We can't do cataract surgeries without them. They do require us to have actual licenses for doing that. We can't just go over and start poking things. So pray for our national partners as well. This is some of the staff, the full-time staff in my country, and these are my family. My Uai and May, my sister and my mom. Brother Sunside is up in the corner. This is my family. So you can give. You can pray for this team, but you can also give. You can support His Servants Ministries. At the end, I'll have our website and Facebook page. If you would like to support financially, we're gonna let you. It costs. You can support the ministry as a whole, and then we divide that up in between the teams. If you'd like, you can support an individual team or trip. So I go to Southeast Asia if you would like to support me, or if you've had a heart for Guatemala and would like to send support for that. You can do a one-time gift. We're trying to start into the area of doing quarterly, monthly gifts, so that there's a continual fund coming in, especially for Southeast Asia, because it's so far on the other side of the world. It is a 12-hour time difference. We are on the other side of the world. And so there's cost for the flights. As I mentioned, we take the team, so there's cost there. And then another way to give is to support a national partner. Let's see if her picture will come up. I have a picture, yes. This is my friend Pang. Pang is on the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She is going to go on a mission trip in August. Going to go to 3 different countries with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, where they have kids in. They run a clinic for soccer, field hockey, volleyball, a couple different sports. But she needs $500. And to us, $500 for 3 countries, what in the world? We'd jump on that in a second. But she's not able to. She's tapped out her resources. She needs more supporters. And so one of the things that I do is when my team members have a need, they tell me and I share it. I'll share it on Facebook. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see from time to time, hey, we only need this much more. You don't have to give it all. $10. It helps. When I was working here, I had somebody who supported me $10 a month, and that's all that they could give. But that was worth a ton. That helped bring me here. So $10 a month could be a ton. And another way for you to give is your time. One of the things that I've learned from my home church is missionaries need breaks too. Our job is a full-time occupation, but ministry happens at all hours of the day. So at a 9-to-5 job, a lot of times you can leave at the end of the day, and you can say, I'm going to leave this mess here and I'll come back to it later. In full-time ministry, you wade into the mess. It is 100% of the time, day or night, you could get a call. So pray for your missionaries. Give your time. When your church or somebody you know on the mission field comes home on furlough, offer to have them over for a meal. If you have extra room in your house, extra bedrooms, invite them to stay with you. Help release their burdens while they're here. I had a couple who supported me while I was here at Camp Nathaniel, and they would sometimes send me money that was not part of their normal giving, and it would be $20 here, it would be $100 here, and I said, this is just for fun. You don't have to turn this in as part of your support. This is just for you to go and have fun. Missionaries don't always get to do that. We're on tight budgets. We cut out and we save in whatever way we can so that our budget is smaller so that we can get into the mission field sooner. That was one of the things I did. And you know, there were some weeks of macaroni and cheese and SpaghettiOs and ramen, but I loved it, so it was okay. But treat your missionaries. If you have the abilities to give of your time or your resources, and you know a missionary is going to be in town, ask them what they need. Ask them what food they've been missing while they've been on the mission field, and see what ways we can help them. And then go. You can go to missions conferences when you have them here in town. When your church is talking about their missionaries, make sure that you're there to hear about it, so you hear the needs. Spend time with missionary families on furlough, and go on a trip. hold on, let's see if I can, oh, it's in the back. There's a picture at the bottom that you can't see, because I forgot to bring it to front.
It's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny. But across the bottom I have a picture of waiting on the curb at the airport with tons of luggage. So in our trips, we ask that everyone brings two checked bags. Half of one bag is for you. The other half and the second bag are for us. Because we will be packing medicine, we will be packing equipment, we will be packing peanut butter. I have a friend who goes on the trips who has a lot of gastrointestinal issues, and she got very sick the first time that she went because it was food unknown to her. So the next time, she brought peanut butter and bread, and she ate that all week so that she could go. So we have people making sacrifices to be able to do this because it's so worth the doing. If you would like to go, give, or pray, we ask that you follow us. hsministries.org/blog. If you do just .org, it'll transfer you to the /blog. We update. Now I will say, we're trying to do a better job of updating more frequently, but between our website and on Facebook, you can find us at His Servants Ministries. We update on a lot of our trips. We have ways to give on there, and we have applications if you would like to join us on a trip. Just because I have fallen in love with Southeast Asia doesn't mean you have to. This last time they went to Guatemala, my husband went there. Every time he goes to Asia, he gets heat stroke or heat rash, and he's passed out several times. So I know it's the Lord working, because otherwise he would not come back. But he said, how about this time since you're going alone? I'll go to Guatemala. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do. And he loved it. He's able to evangelize more there than he is in our country. And that was a lot closer, a lot less travel time. He only had to have 2 flights as opposed to, we go from maybe Chicago or Atlanta, so first you have to get there, to Tokyo, to Bangkok, into whatever country we're going to, and then drive across the border or drive to the villages. So it's a 2-day travel affair. So just because I love it doesn't mean you have to, but there are plenty of opportunities for you to get involved. As I mentioned, I refer to my location as Southeast Asia, but if you would like to learn more about what specific country, if you would like to see pictures, I do have to get off because I've gone over time, but we have pictures and stuff in the back, and I'll be here all day for questions. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to have this time to share with you.